Hey, this is Amy here from Motif Music Studios. And if you're anything like me and you're perhaps a fellow music teacher, or maybe you're a small business owner that has to wear a lot of hats in their day, then this may be a relatable live stream to you. So today I'm actually here from a place of needing some body doubles out there to get some tasks done that I've been avoiding. Now, I do email every single day. It's part of my day, but I admit that it's not my hyper focus right now. So I have been doing more playing, more things with my family, and more other things that are maybe even a bit more dopamine rich for my brain. I love the communication I get from our studio families, but I also went through seasons of burnout when juggling too much and not hiring an admin assistant soon enough. That's a story for another day. So if you have some tasks that you'd like to get done, feel free to join in. And you'll probably think, why is this so quiet? Because usually we're doing other things. So the first thing I love to do if I'm experiencing that task initiation paralysis is that overwhelming, just not the capacity to get started, is to just start. And often I start with something that is easier and that gives that little bit of dopamine. So I'm going to actually set a timer. And if you're here on the replay, you could try some of these strategies if you need to catch up. I am going to set a timer for 2 minutes, and I'm going to blitz all the junk mail or spam in my folder. I try to be careful to block actual spam. If there's a subscription that I'm not able to keep up with, yeah, I'll try to unsubscribe mindfully. There's many subscriptions I keep because I love to keep in touch with lots of the composers that are in my inbox, so I still have lots of those subscriptions. So this is a 2-minute timer for getting rid of junk email, spam email, and some unsubscribes in your inbox. Let's go. If you drop by, you can say hello. I'll be here, and I'm going to try to stay on track. Okay, here we go. I might chatter away while we go, so we're going to get rid of a lot of things. And sometimes just getting rid of a lot of stuff really quickly is quite helpful for me, because you can feel like you have, hundreds of emails and that everyone's waiting for a reply, and really a lot of them don't need to be addressed. So for instance, I'm starting today at just 60 emails. That's actually not very many for a business, and in the past I've answered hundreds in a day, but now the demands are a lot lower. So we're going to sort through these junk emails first. Now this is a surprise live stream, and it isn't the style I usually do. This style was inspired by Claire Sarah over on her YouTube channel, and she does a Pomodoro technique where she sets a timer for even 25 minutes and then circles back to a little tip and a little creator chat. So I was inspired by her, and hopefully this will encourage someone out there too. I love seeing the wonderful emails in my inbox, and I usually have a pretty good idea of what's in there waiting for me, and sometimes that's bad. So it's sometimes a habit that slows me down quite a bit. Is I know what's going on in my inbox, and sometimes it does slow me down on my responses because I'm wasting time not just answering them. The other thing I do is I do file all mine with titles. Like if we have e-transfer alerts, things like that, I file them all under interact or things like that. And some people just archive them, and it's not a bad idea in a Gmail inbox because you don't always, now you can search for things and it does pop up. So that was actually the first 2 minutes. I can't actually believe it. But interestingly, in 2 minutes, we're already down from 60 to 47. I was able to read through a lot of them really briefly and go, oh yeah, I don't actually need that one today, and get rid of any of the junk emails. So the next thing I do, so I'll check off Blitz junk on here, and I didn't have to do any quick unsubscribes today. It looks like all the ones in here are ones that I want to keep. So I see something from Susan Staples Bell and the Creator Classroom. Love that. And also from Piano Music Database. You'll want to check that out, and that's on my organizational list to join in on that. The next thing I'll do is urgent tasks. Now, as a studio owner with not as much admin time these days and juggling a lot of different things, I find that there are always going to be things that you have to triage faster. So, for instance, if I see that a family is sick in a colleague's class today, then I want to make sure to notify the teacher, update the calendar, or send, like I do today, I'm going to send an online link because they're feeling a bit under the weather and want to join this teacher online instead of in person. So that's my next scan, is any urgent requests. So I'm going to try and see what I can do in 4 minutes, and we'll give that a go. Now, warning that this live stream might have to end suddenly because I do have the kids around. They're all on different tasks right now, but if things get out of hand, I'll have to hop out and help with that. So we are chatting about task initiation paralysis, and we're trying to do something about it today. Let me know if you drop in. So next, we're on to urgent things that need to happen today. Now, I did have an amazing admin assistant for 2.5 years, and she got me on to having a notebook right beside me so that I could kind of keep a running log of some things, checklists, or some things that need, like math, that I need to quickly jot something down, or I need to close a tab, open another tab, and get back to the tab I'm working on. Those are emails that I struggle with because they require multiple steps, and I'm always worried, like, if I get interrupted in the middle of this flow, then I'll have a harder time. Now, that might not be all of you, because I do have a neurodivergent brain, ADHD, more on the hyper-focus side for me. And so when I get into something, I could start this and then not even know that 5 hours had passed of emails, but getting into that place of deep focus is harder for me. Okay, so keeping a little bit of a written log helps if I have to suddenly drop what I'm doing, and we'll take a look at this. So now I'm setting up an online link, and I have a drafted email for that. So if you're someone who keeps some at their fingertips drafted emails, then this is a great way to save time. So I'm going to set that up now for my teacher Natanya and a student that will be working with her online today instead of in person. So let's go. And it's nice to be able to copy that and paste it into a new email, double check all the details. So this is for if you're just joining in, I am doing a work session, and you probably were like, what is happening here? So feel free to join in, grab your computer, and get started as well. Okay. If you join in on the replay and you're getting caught up in your own inbox, be sure to let us know if you have any tips or tricks that you use to get caught up on tasks you might be avoiding. It's amazing how fast 5 minutes goes, but I was chatting along the way. So almost done this more detailed task that I need to have ready. Okay, so that is a task I was avoiding. It didn't take too long at all, and I'm able to follow through with that with our team member too. Hello, if you're just hopping in, I am getting caught up on some admin tasks. If you have some things you're behind on, feel free to open your laptop and join in as well. Okay, so that was a good little focus section, and it looks like families still all peaceful and fine out there. So today we're talking task initiation paralysis and getting through emails. If you're a fellow music teacher or a fellow entrepreneur and you're like, man, I need to catch up on some of these things that I am avoiding a little bit, or maybe they're just tasks you do every day and it's a little bit lonely because you're in an office all on your own and you're thinking, oh man, I wish I had a colleague to work with. So then this is a good place for that as well. And if you're dropping in as a solopreneur, just let me know what are your trickiest tasks that you do in a week, or the ones that aren't as dopamine rich and maybe you find yourself avoiding them a little bit more. And I feel like I have the most like wonderful inbox, so it's definitely not because I have any um yeah, it's not because I have any problem with any of the emails. It's more just fitting it in. And that's something I haven't been able to do as much this year because my teaching schedule is bigger. It's harder for me to leap into the home and then also set aside like actual business hours for the admin. And like many of you who are studio owners as well know, is that sometimes our admin tasks are happening kind of in real time and needing to notify people. And that's also why, even though an admin assistant can be super valuable and I loved having one, sometimes it still doesn't work for those like last minute things unless you're able to employ someone over the full business hours, which is hard in a studio because when we have multiple teachers, my earliest day starts at 9:15 for teaching, and then one of my colleagues works until 8 or 8:30 at night. So it would be hard to employ someone for all those business hours unless you had a very large studio. Anyways, so here we go on the next bit of this. Um, just answering here. Sometimes I have some songs that I love listening to that um, that I'll put on while I um, do tasks that help me get started, often it's like the same song every time. And so I used to always set a timer like I'm doing today, but lately I'll also put a song on and just tell myself to finish a task by the time the song's over, and it helps for me. So I'd love to hear if you find listening to music while you do emails like distracting, or if that's helpful for you. I've had both in different seasons. My husband Jeff does all the admin on the other side of the business. So I'm kind of forward facing to our wonderful customers and a lot of the staff support. And Jeff does a lot of the administrate all the behind the scenes invoicing and payroll and accounting. And so it's quite funny. I'm here writing him, but we try to not just throw things at each other in while we're moving around the house. So we definitely have special email address. So Jeff is our task force guy at Motif, and we update each other for different aspects of things. And we try to keep that positive too. So we've worked together for a long time. So I'd love to hear if you work with a spouse or partner as well. So I laugh that after all these years, I usually still form a cohesive email, even though it's Jeff. But I feel like it helps us keep more positive rapport and not like just to watch our tone and not be too bossy or too snarky about things if you're like agitated or so it just helps keep it positive, and that's been a gift over the years to have a fun rapport in the inbox. Okay, so let's start. The next thing I've done now the urgent tasks, so tasks that will come up today that our team will need to know about or that I need to know about. We do pay our staff if a student isn't there, and I've really had to gift myself the freedom to sometimes miss a notification because I already am terrible for like having my phone with me, but I was finding I was quite anxious about like what if I miss a note and like, oh, I'm sorry you had a 30-minute break and you didn't know a student wasn't coming. But the gift of it is that our breaks are paid, and the teacher can work on admin, they can take more of a break, they can stretch their legs. I almost always am able to notify them on time, but sometimes the notification happens. Somebody gets picked up sick from school, and I might get the notification 5 or 10 minutes before the class begins. So we gift ourselves that grace, and we know that the teacher's still paid regardless, so that really helps. So feel free to let us know if there's policies you have that really support adding a bit of ease to your day to day. Okay, so I'm going to set the timer for another 5 minutes. These are out of the urgent tasks, and these are now schedule tasks. So weekly things that I might see in my inbox of people wanting an introductory lesson or perhaps some swap time. So we have a no makeup lesson policy, but often if we have a cancellation spot, we'll say, hey, would you like to come on Friday at 9 o'clock? We have an opening there with your teacher or whatever. So those are things that I categorize as non-urgent, but schedule planning tasks that are kind of the fourth thing I do in my email inbox each day or whenever I can get to email. So now we'll take a look at that. I'm going to set a 5 minute again because I've got limited time before I'm back teaching. Today I teach, let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4. I have 6 more students today. So I'll take a break in between. So welcome if you're here. I am working on emails today, which I don't usually do live, but I hope that if you've got some tasks that you're like, oh, I'm here and I'm trying to work on stuff, you can work on that too. So here we go for our next now 4 minutes and 30 seconds of time. You'll notice that I have my USB keyboard here today, and I actually have it down like on position for where I'm playing because I notice when I'm using a laptop in other positions, I actually have had my worst tension injuries in the last few years were actually just from my typing position. So if you're also doing those admin tasks as a pianist or musician, it's a good thing to remember that the ergonomics of your setup are really, really essential. So that's something that's helpful. It also helps me type faster and stay more efficient. So that's something that we do. Okay, so some more wonderful inquiries in our inbox, and those sometimes do happen slowly here, and I will probably set another auto response on the inbox, and sometimes we just like give ourselves the ease of slowful responses, and that's very different from how I used to feel. I used to feel like I had like 6 hours and I'd be answering an email, and I still sometimes have those fast turnovers, but I also realized it was putting me in a state of chronic stress and a bit of anxiety, and we had a lot of things going on at home and young children, and it just wasn't sustainable for creating a business that we could actually live life and do business in a way that gifts ourselves slowness, but also gives compassion to our clients too. So we try to have some balance there. I do have a newsletter if you'd like to follow for sustainable tips for studio management, for teaching music creatively, and to find out more about the music of contemporary composers, then I do have a fun newsletter that comes out mostly every month, but I did give myself some rest and just put out a new one this last week. Okay, so back on to some lessons and just 2 minutes or some emails, just 2 minutes left, and I think I can get through a few. Oh, what a great question. Okay. Okay, so we have successfully got through quite a few sets of our admin. I'm down to about 38 emails, so almost at the halfway point in my inbox. And these next ones are a bit more time heavy, so I'm going to push a little bit longer. I'll probably be here for another 6 minutes or so, and then I do have to transition out. But sometimes getting the wind in your sails, so to speak, setting some deadlines, making sure that you're on track of some things, that little bit of a boost gives you that dopamine you need to dig in a little harder. So those are some ideas I use. I often use the strategies of atomic habits, which when I first heard of the name Atomic Habits, everything in me was like, I'm not reading that book because habits aren't my jam. Because I think as a um, very driven entrepreneur over the years, it was just my hyper focus, but I wasn't so good at like, oh, at this time I will do this. And I thought, oh, atomic habits, that doesn't work for me. I'm not going to be able to make that happen. But what I realized was I loved the concept of it. I've done some live streams with other educators like Amanda Taro, Matthews, and we dove into how that can work as entrepreneurs, how it can work as musicians, and there are actionable ways in small moments to make progress. And so that was really, really helpful for me to take a peek at. Okay, so a couple more and then I am going to head off. So I'm going to set the timer 5 more minutes. I'm going to try to now choose some that I've been avoiding. So if you get an email from me, don't take it personally. Sometimes I avoid just if the task has too many steps. And so I find myself, like I mentioned earlier in the stream, avoiding just because I don't necessarily know if I have enough time to complete it before I get a pattern interrupt in my day. Or it's something that I'm really like stirring about, like, oh, should I add another day of teaching? I've got a lot of requests. So it's something that's taking me more time to process, but it's never personal. I have the most positive, wonderful inbox here. Okay, here we go. So 5 minutes. Let's go. It did it for 4 minutes, so we're doing that instead. Okay. Like I said, I usually file them as I go, just so I know where they are. But but you can just hit archive, and lots of people are doing that these days that are far more efficient people than myself. quietest live stream I've ever hosted. If you're just dropping in, I'm just here catching up on email admin, and through this live stream, I've been explaining some tactics that I use, some strategy when I'm really feeling that task initiation paralysis. Back to focus here. Later this month, we're doing a cookie decorating party, which will be a lot of fun. So some of my forward thinking things are this past week I sent our newsletter on the 1st of November for our Thrive in 3 newsletter for other teachers, and then our newsletter for our teachers and student families. And so I usually gather those up, those calendar updates, and make sure they're on. But when I'm doing our forward planning stuff, those are things that I'm like, okay, have I checked in with the church or the studio rental location for this event? Or is there anything I need in advance that needs advanced preparation and things like that? And then in this spot, I'm also transferring those wonderful responses where people are like, count us in. And for those ones, I update our Drive folder so that it has a little spot on there that says who's joining us for each of the events. And I keep that pretty simple. It's usually just a Drive document that's like fall 2025 events. And then I can just keep that updated as I go. Yeah, and so this one's actually a new one because we did our last one. So I'll make a separate one for our cookie decorating party because that one has probably more lists than our music share at the local dementia care unit. So cookie decorating party. Now this one's going to be fun because we're doing a whole cookie decorating, but we also have an instrument there so that students who have like a work in progress and want to participate get to actually decorate cookies and then take a break and play a little something on the keyboard. And this is one that they don't have to have as polished as their like performance opportunities that they're really trying to bring their best to. This is a great one to be like, oh, I only have a section of the piece I'm going to perform for Christmas, but I really want to test it out and see where my preparation's at. This is a good spot for that. So we now do things like this more often, and last year a real hit was our Lego and music making parties, and those were fantastic, and we actually held them at a local museum, and it really was interesting to see the community drop in too, and that was something I wasn't as much expecting. But we actually the one time had, I think, 20 people drop by and play Lego with us and listen to music. So we just kept going, you know what, let's just let it happen and not say, oh, this is a private booking or whatever. So we actually just welcomed everyone into our space. So if you're still listening at this point on a replay to this very quiet and then burst of chatty live stream, let me know if you have some music parties or community building things you do in your studio as well. So our cookie decorating party, always on my Google Drive. I'll put like the date again and the time and the location. I just feel like it helps me keep track because we sometimes do 10 to 12 events a year, and in the past it was like multiple bookings, multiple teachers. It's simpler now, but it still helps me to have written it down and kind of keep it in my mind and make sure it's on our family calendar too. So this one is going to be a 1-hour class. It could probably go on forever, but just for staffing and for myself and Natanya and Jordy, we try to keep them, just really fun, engaging, and then we can move into the rest of our day. So writing down a few participants. Okay. Okay. Okay, so those are a couple of the weekly ones that are completed now, and um, I'll see the need to do another blitz today to make sure that I clear these by the weekend, because I know people have been very patient in waiting for some of these decisions on whether we're opening up new spaces or not. And those are the ones that sometimes do trip me up because I'm a people pleaser and I'm thinking, oh, I really want to figure this out. And then sometimes things just aren't happening with ease and I need to just admit it and be like, you know what? We're paused on registration. We can't add anything right now. But other times with some creative thinking, I'm like, oh, that totally actually does work. So, anyways, thanks for joining me today. I hope you all get some things done and you face your task initiation paralysis, and we'll see you again next time.